Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hope you're all doing well wherever you are. Hanging in there, I guess, would be probably the more appropriate response to that. As we all are, because things are just continuing to slide downward, I guess, you know, as far as what's happening in the in this country here. But you know, I gotta say here, you know, it really still boggles the mind how so many people still have faith in Trump and believe the things that he says, like, oh, I stopped 7 wars and all this stuff. And yesterday, as soon as Trump had said that he, you know, the war over in Israel was over, Netanyahu starts more shit again, okay? Now, keep in mind, Netanyahu doesn't want the United States off his side just yet, okay? He still has, you know, ambitions for Gaza, and he wants to, like I said, clean that place out, you know, beachfront property. That's what he wants, okay? Claim that for Israel, you know, and, you know, having Trump go out there and say the war is over, well, no, not yet, not yet, you know? So it's like here we go again with Netanyahu pulling Trump's strings, and Trump can't seem to understand what the hell's going on, or maybe he does, I don't know. But obviously, Trump doesn't have any control over what's happening over there. He doesn't. He's one of the weakest presidents we've ever had. So let me read this here for everybody. This comes from Daily Democracy here. It says, Trump threatens war as Israel violates the ceasefire. Trump's ceasefire deal, which resulted in the final hostages being returned to Israel, has already been broke by Israel, despite Trump declaring that the war was over. Just today, Israel has already violated the ceasefire multiple times by drone striking and then shooting and wounding Palestinians near Khan Yunis. Killing 5 Palestinians in Gaza City, and shooting and wounding many others near Jabalia. I guess that's how you say it. Yesterday, Hamas released the final 20 hostages back to Israel, while Israel returned 1,968 Palestinians. 1,808 of those were arrested after the October 7 attack on Israel, but were not involved in the attack. They were detained for 2 years for not committing a crime. Gee, sounds oddly familiar. You know, what we did here in Iraq. Okay, so the ceasefire that Trump claimed full credit for on a variety of world stages already fell apart, as many of his endeavors often do. It's no wonder he didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize. The Nobel Peace Prize. In fact, he actually seems to be advocating for the exact opposite, saying we, quote, have told Hamas we want to disarm. We have told Hamas, and they will disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them, and it will happen quickly and perhaps violently, unquote. Earlier today, the IDF accused Hamas of violating their ceasefire agreement by delaying the return of hostage bodies, so they cut the number of aid trucks allowed into Gaza by half, and are restricting aid assistance to the area. They will also reportedly delay the opening of a border crossing into Egypt to Wednesday, and potentially longer, excuse me, the cruelty of Israel of halting aid to people that need it desperately in areas that they have bombed into oblivion is unimaginable. And they're I can't remember what website, it might have been NBC, but they have pictures of what Gaza looks like today. And I'll tell you, it's fucking, it's like, from a distance, it looks like beach, like mounds of sand. Okay, it looks like beach. But as they zoom in on it, you start to see, you know, the structure of a building here a little bit, maybe some windows that were there. But it looks like a nuclear bomb had gone off, you know, hundreds of feet in the air and just flattened that whole area. How anybody could still be there, I don't know. I don't know how these people are even surviving in that, because, like I said, it looks like a desert. There's nothing recognizable about any building that was there. That's just how bad Israel had hit that area. I mean, they threw everything they had at them. Everything. So, like I said, Trump going around saying, oh, the war's over and all this stuff. Nothing's over. Nothing is over so long as there's still a Palestinian somewhere down there. And Netanyahu is not going to end this shit until he's eradicated all of them. Now, how those people in Israel can look themselves in the mirror and say that, or not say anything, really, basically, they're just letting Netanyahu, I mean, where are the protests? These people were protesting this son of a bitch before this shit in October 7 happened, because they found him corruption charges, okay, like Trump. They were fixing to nail his ass to the wall, and then all of a sudden this shit happened. Now, some people would say, well, it was just a coincidence. No, I say it was probably by design. This was the ultimate distraction, okay? Just like we can expect from Trump, at any moment, he's going to pull the same shit. Okay? Think about that. So this other article here, it's titled, Trump Brags About Dodging a Would-Be Assassin's Bullet During Posthumous Medal of Freedom Ceremony for Charlie Kirk. Okay, it's from the same source here. The MAGA cult leader never misses a moment to turn the spotlight on himself, and yesterday's awkward posthumous presentation of the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Charlie Kirk was no different. On what would have been Kirk's 32nd birthday, Donald Trump stood before the slain far-right provocateur's grieving widow, Erica, and compared the race-baiting, rabble-rousing extremist to Socrates, Abraham Lincoln, St. Peter, and why not Martin Luther King Jr.? But of course, he couldn't stay on topic for very long, because the narcissist in chief veered wildly off script to praise himself for a number of accomplishments, including, no, we are not making this up, successfully dodging a would-be assassin's bullet. Quote, but I made a turn at a good time, I turned to the right, unquote. Donald Trump said, referencing the moment he narrowly avoided a bullet fired by Thomas Michael Crooks in Pennsylvania last year. Trump laughed and added again with Erica sitting just feet away, quote, Charlie couldn't believe it actually. He said, how the hell did you make that turn, unquote, beyond parody. Oh, God. You know, like I said, this fucking guy is really sick. Mentally. He's mentally sick. And the fact that we still allow this son of a bitch to sit in the White House, okay, and play his games and manipulate our country illegally in all these different ways, really speaks about the American people. Personally, I don't want to be seen amongst the rest of y'all that are out there allowing this to go on, because I'm not in support of it, period. But there's nobody else really that seems to be as agitated about this as I am, at least not that the people that I know. All I hear is, tough times. It's hard to, to afford groceries. It's gas is going up, and prices of shit at Walmart is, going up. Dollar Tree is more expensive. That's all I'm hearing, okay? But what I'm not hearing is people making the connection as to why this stuff is. It's not the economy running itself. It's Donald Trump manipulating the economy. That's what it is. And maybe that's where people in MAGA do what they do, is they think, you know, the president doesn't control the economy, the president doesn't control the military, the president doesn't. If he doesn't control anything that matters to you, why do you vote? Why do you vote for president? Why do you vote every election if president doesn't matter to you? Because he doesn't control anything. You know goddamn well he does. And you know damn well the president does impact the economy with policies that he's passed, the fucking tariffs and shit that he implemented. Our problems can be traced right back to that. And, you know, the best economic minds in our country had already foreshadowed that this would be the result if Trump, you know, got in the White House and started implementing all those tariffs. I mean, they said it, but nobody believed it. Everybody thought it was word games, you know, word salad or whatever the hell it is, because you people aren't smart enough to understand economics. Okay, that's what they thought. Everybody said, "Oh, fuck you, you Democrats, you know, you're just a bunch of sore losers." Okay? Now the MAGA base is like less than half of what it was. And that's because a lot of the people in that base got impacted specifically by Trump's actions. You know, with Doge and all that stuff, okay? And, you know, for people who were kicked off of Medicare and all that stuff, a lot of them were Republicans too, and Democrats, but mostly Republicans, because those red states, they really are bad states to live in, because they were conservative legislatures in those states are as corrupt as you could possibly get, okay? They're in it for themselves and nobody else. So, you know, we have this going on in America. And like I said, it still baffles me that people just after 9 months haven't made that connection yet enough, okay, to understand that, yes, you know, Trump is really the man behind the curtain. You know, he's the one wrecking everything here, okay? It's not some, you know, other person in another country somewhere doing it all, okay? These are ideas coming out of his head, okay? Orders coming from the Heritage Foundation that he got, you know, the Project 2025, all these things, okay? Netanyahu didn't come to this country and write the Project 2025. That was all conservative thinkers right there. That's a think tank of assholes who come up with that damn manifesto for Donald Trump to use, because they knew he didn't have any ideas, so they gave him some. Okay? They said, okay, we're going to put you in there, but we're going to give you your agenda, because we know the only thing you care about is staying out of jail, but we're going to give you something here to do while you're sitting there keeping the seat warm for us. And that's what they handed him. Okay? That's what they handed him. So, you know, all this talk about, you know, it's Putin, it's this, it's that. It's like, fuck that, okay? Screw your fucking conspiracy theories, okay? Yeah, Trump isn't very good on the international scale, okay? He doesn't have much pull with anybody because he hasn't earned any fucking credit. You know what I'm saying? Every person that's ever been in the White House has earned some political pull internationally, speaking, of course, because of the work they did before they got in the White House as a congressman or a senator or something like that. They've had, you know, a whole lifetime of political experience. You don't just throw somebody in the fucking box who's only ran a casino into the ground more than once, okay? Yeah, he may have catered to some international buddies that showed up over there, but that wasn't like making deals about peace or getting hostages. Okay, this is a guy who was just an entertainer, a buffoon. That's the extent of his international experience. And I imagine they must have laughed their silly asses off when they heard his name being, you know, when that son of a bitch, he's the one that's the president. I could just hear it now, and then you find, oh, that's the same guy that got this girl from, you know, and you know, I can just imagine how the world erupted in laughter over that. Probably as much as he's flipped out over this item, where Trump and the Republican Party are freaking out over the October 18th, quote, "No Kings Rally," unquote. Congressional Republicans and the right-wing propaganda machine are having a full-blown meltdown over the planned No Kings rallies this Saturday, in which millions upon millions of Americans will take to the streets in every state to protest the Trump team's efforts to dismantle our democracy and make Donald a dictator. Republicans are working overtime to smear the protesters because they know that their lies fall apart when people see a nation united in its devotion to the democratic ideals of the American Republic and opposed to Trump's authoritarian agenda. So put on yellow clothing and do your part and go, because it pisses off Trump. You want to piss off Trump? Show up at the rally. That's the thing. And then, of course, here's this little thing here, this little nugget here. Pete Hegseth's Pentagon press crackdown gets absolutely walloped on Fox News by retired general. This is interesting. The Department of Defense Secretary's authoritarian crackdown on press coverage at the Pentagon has been met with uniform opposition across the political spectrum, from mainstream outlets like NPR, ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, and the like, to reliably right-wing propaganda-friendly networks like Fox News and Newsmax. Turns out those who've worn the uniform aren't too pleased either. Retired General and former Vice Chief of Staff for the U.S. Army, Jack Keane, was bluntly critical during an interview with Fox's Brett Baier, where he had this to say, quote, "What they're really doing, they want to spoon-feed information to the journalists, and that will be their story. That's not journalism. Journalism is going out and finding the story and getting all the facts that support it." Correct, okay? But then that's kind of Pete's whole point, to muzzle journalists and make them mouthpieces for a fascist regime hell-bent on dismantling democratic norms, okay? Yeah, he's pissed. I imagine this probably goes right back to where he leaked out information, remember, over a chat room, okay? And he's been taking heat from that ever since. And he's pissed about that. And the press kept, reported that. And now he's trying to bring down the fucking sword on the press. From now on, you're not reporting anything unless we approve it, unless we see it, we filter it. Okay? And the fact that he comes out blatantly and does that, I mean, he doesn't even see what's wrong with that. Okay? Freedom of the press. Has he ever heard of that? I mean, Christ, he worked at Fox News for a while, right? He was a host on the weekends or something. He knows, well, he should know. He knows about the First Amendment, the freedom of the press. I mean, what the fuck? And now all of a sudden, now that he's the object of the news, he doesn't want anyone reporting any mistakes that he makes. Let me say here off the bat, okay, the media in this country has been really lax as it is, okay? They've been tiptoeing around the things Trump does and sugarcoating a lot of stuff, okay? But that's not enough, you see. That's not enough for Pete Hegseth. He's mad only because his ass was the object of ridicule here a few months ago for that leak, okay? And I imagine he's a lot of people around him that in the regime there, they don't really like him much, because he tried to wiggle his way out of it, and so that's probably eating at him like a cancer here. And now he's come out with these rules, and he finds nobody likes those rules. Nobody, not even people that are on his on his side, more or less, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, even the Republicans aren't even approving of this. Nobody wants that. Nobody. So, this is only him. This is only him. And why would he do that? Like I said, it's because he's still taking flack from that shit that he did. Because all the military people have all said it, that if this had been a different administration, Pete Hegseth would have been fired on the spot for that. He'd be out of there. And he should be out of there. But because he ain't, and Trump's keeping him there for however long, I don't know, Okay, that's pissing off everybody in the intelligence agency and everybody in the military, the generals and all that. Okay, they're pissed off that this guy, we still have to tell him stuff. You know, we don't trust him because he's going to open his yap. You know, he's proven he can't be trusted. He finds out something and he goes and tells everybody. You know, it's just, I don't understand how somebody could take that position that Hegseth has and just be so careless with it and not understand the, you know, if you screw up, this is what could happen. You know, it's not a game, this job. You know, it's not asking you to do something and then if you screw up, it's okay, we can clean up the mess. No. You know, people's lives are on the line when shit like that they do is passed around, and if it gets leaked out, you know, people could die. Agents could die. You know, despite Hegseth's military past, which I don't think was that extensive, okay? He may think he understands how things work, but he doesn't. He has absolutely no criteria, no qualifications to be holding that seat. And Trump only wants him there because he saw him on Fox News, you know, and figures, well, this guy, I could probably, you know, buy him off, you know. They probably checked him out, found out he's a lowlife, you know. Who knows what skeletons that guy's got in his closet. But he's got this guy by the throat, and he's holding him into that seat. Now, as I understand it, Trump himself wasn't too happy about Hegseth leaking information on the chat thing. But somehow, you know, Hegseth avoided being fired, which is really unusual for Trump, that he didn't just say, you know, you're out of here. But I'm telling you, there's people in the administration, or the regime rather, I should say, that are, you know, interested in seeing him leave. And he still might end up being fired at the end of the day. It still might happen. He might be out of there next year. Who knows? But this thing here that he put out, these rules here about you can't report nothing unless I okay it. Okay, that's not going to fly with anybody. Okay. And the minute the minute the press sees him cracking down on them and doing that shit, the whole media is going to turn against him. And then that means they're turning against Trump, because if they can't get Trump to get rid of Hegseth, then they'll turn on Trump. So this is really not going to help Hegseth in any fucking way. Trump may not like, you know, what the media says about him, okay? And he might even come out and say things like, well, I don't want you guys to report on that. But he's not going to be the one that's going to take the fall for Hegseth coming out saying, you know, I'm going to tell you people what to report and that's it. Okay? He's the one that's going to take the fall before Trump does. You know? And maybe that's the way this is going to happen. And maybe if Hegseth gets his way and he starts doing this, that's going to be the death nail here for him, and Trump's going to have him out. Okay? Maybe that's what's going to happen. I don't know. But I can't see how anything good's going to come out of this for anybody. It's only gonna solidify what we already know about the whole regime being a dictatorial, authoritarian style regime in our country. Okay, MAGA can argue against that till they're blue in the face, but it's not going to work. We're seeing the evidence every fucking day. Somebody, or Trump in his regime, okay, they're saying things, doing things that's contrary to the democracy that was established here, which we no longer have now, okay, because we voted for Trump. Okay, that's really, you know, what's going on here. And I hope that those people who march Saturday in this No Kings protest, okay, I hope they get enough attention from the media, and I hope a lot of people participate in it, you know, weather permitting, of course. But I hope a lot of people, you know, participate to show their support for what was the United States, for what was a democracy, okay, that we want it back. We want our country back. We don't want Trump running it into the ground anymore. We want our country back. We want what we had when Biden was president. That's what we want. We want that respect back from the rest of the world. We want people to look at our country as a legitimate country, not a third world dictatorship, okay? We can't be that. Not the most powerful nation on earth. We can't afford to allow ourselves to weaken our government to that level because there's so much at stake. Our downfall brings down freedom across the globe because we were the fucking the strongest link in the chain until Trump. You break that link and the whole chain collapses. The rest of the world looked to us to lead the way. And that's the way it's been, you know, even under Republican leadership, you know, even Reagan, you know, his speeches and stuff, even he said it, you know, the United States is the beacon here of hope for the rest of the world. And with Trump, he's taken that beacon down and stomped the fucking glass out of it. I mean, he just, okay, he doesn't want that. He doesn't want that. Why? Retribution. This is his retribution. Okay, because he spent the last 4 years in and out of court for every crime that he was involved in, okay, and he got pissed. But the fact is, he had the courts on his side. Well, I don't know how he was doing it, but he had the courts on his side in the Supreme Court. He didn't have anything really to worry about, but he's still pissed that he had to go through it. So now, he's taking his revenge on all of us, okay, on all of us. And that includes you too, MAGA, okay? You too. Even though you might have been at his rallies and stuff like that, he doesn't care. A person with revenge on their mind does not care about how many innocents get in the way or fall because he's trying to get to the target. Okay? He will knock you down on the way to get his revenge. Okay? So don't think he's on your side. You're just another hurdle in his way. He's going to split that with an axe, okay? But the United States right now is he don't like it. And I wish he would just follow through with that and just pack up his shit from Mar-a-Lago and fly the hell out of here. Honestly. Just resign and get the hell out of Dodge. We don't want you here. You're not welcome here. Your family's not welcome here. Just go. Pick up and get out of here. You know? That's all we can really hope. I mean, him going to prison, that's never going to happen. Him answering for the crimes he did, that's never going to happen. The Jeffrey Epstein stuff and all that stuff, you're never going to see any resolution to that. So instead of trying to get those things, those pipe dreams, we just deport him. Okay? His mother wasn't even a citizen of this country. She was an immigrant here, right? He was born into this country. Trump was. And he's a citizen by birthright, but now he's trying to attack that even. He doesn't want people to be born in this country and be considered a citizen. Really? It's worked in this country for years, and I don't see how you could find something crooked in that. A birth is a birth, right? It's a baby, right? But, like I said, the best thing he could do, if we can't have it our way, is for him to pack his shit and get the hell out of America. Just go. Really. You know, we'll clean up the mess because that's the way it's going to be anyway. We'll clean up your fucking mess. Just go and don't come back. Ever. You know? I think if I was to see Trump face to face, that's what I'd say. Get out of here, will you? Just go. You know? Take all your shit from Mar-a-Lago and get the hell out of here as quick as you can. You know, you got the money, you can get out of here quicker than most people can anyway, so just go. Jesus. Go to Qatar or fucking Saudi Arabia. People over there like you. All right, that's it. So I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. So take care. I'll talk to you later.